Tip Your Cap, the show where we give our pioneers their flowers. As host Treyanne gets up close and personal in conversation with individuals that were instrumental in knocking down doors and revolutionising the landscape of media and entertainment in the UK. Join us each week as they talk about their journey, their story, and their legacy. Tip your cap.
Hello and welcome to Tip Your Cap. I'm Treyanne Rowe, and today's guest, like all our guests here on Tip Your Cap, is a trailblazer in her industry. Inspired by Oprah, she was the first black woman to have successfully commissioned a talk show on British national TV. And that's not the beginning or even close to the end of her story. Welcome to Tip Your Cap, Crystal Rose. How are you?
I'm very well. All the better for being in your company. You look fabulous, by the way.
Thank
fabulous.
you. All for you. I came out in my splendour with crystals to honour you.
And you've done a great job.
Thank you. So, Crystal Rose, the first black British female talk host. Before the Crystal Rose show, you were a fashion model, wasn't you? Can you tell me about that?
I was indeed. But let me just correct that. I wasn't just the first black woman to host a talk show in the UK. I was the first woman to host a show that took her name, an eponymous talk show.
Amazing.
But yeah, I lived in Acton, and I was walking along my local high street, looking as dowdy as I used to look, which isn't terribly far away from how I sometimes look now. And a photographer took a photograph, and it wasn't because I was looking any certain way. He just used to take photographs of people walking on Acton High Street. And then if it was you, when it came out in the newspaper, you had to go into the office wearing the same clothes, claim £5, which was the prize, and that was it. And so when I went in to get my £5, because that for me was 2 bags of Snugglers, because I was a mother at the time. This is when I was 18.
Right.
There was no way that I was going to leave the £5, so I had to go in and claim my prize. And they said, well, what are you going to spend it on? And I thought, I won't tell them I'm going to buy nappies. I'll say I'm going to put it towards the cost of a portfolio, because I was toying with being a model then. And they said, oh, you want to be a model? Okay, well, why don't we do a story? So they did a story the following week, which came out on the front page. And then an agent was going past a news agency, saw the newspaper in the agency window, and then it contacted the Acton Gazette, and it went on from there.
Brilliant.
That's how I got into the industry.
Wow, brilliant.
I know.
So you was in the right place at the right time, would you say?
Yes. But also, though, didn't just say, I'm going to go and buy 2 packets of Snugglers,
Yes.
the nappies for babies, which is what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I kind of embellished what I was actually going to be spending that money on, So then they thought, oh, that would make a nice local story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so Sarah Cape called me, and I went in to see her.
Excellent, lovely. So would you say the experience that you had helped you to really knock down the doors of, national TV, or was you always a go-getter?
I think it's my parents, my dad in particular, has drilled into all of us that if you can see it, you can be it. If you can think it, you can be it. And so I wasn't going to. Well, what actually I saw at the time regarding the Crystal Rose show was the Oprah Winfrey show on TV. I came home one day, and that was on Channel 4. And it was the first time I'd seen a black woman presenting a show that was meant for everybody. Before that, we had shows like Black on Black or Eastern Eye, and they were specifically aiming at a particular demographic. But Oprah was talking about issues that affect us all, because we're all human beings. And there was no colour to the conversation. And I thought, that's what I want to do. So even though I had no presentation or production skills at the time, I don't let things like that stop me. I researched 6 subjects. In the end, I had about 40 people working for me on getting 6 pilot programs together. So picked very topical subjects. I was fortunate that I went down to a place called Bridge Park Complex, which is in Stonebridge, and told them what I wanted to do. And the manager there was called Leonard Johnson. And he said, you're from the community, why don't we help you? So instead of charging me a weekly amount for the space, I was able to record my 6 pilot shows every Sunday in Bridge Park Complex and not be charged for the space, which is extremely helpful. And Choice FM was just breaking at that time as well. And Neil Kenlock there, they gave me advertising so I could advertise for an audience. And so together, the community helped me to put together this, 6 weeks of a talk show. Leonard Johnson, the manager, knew the director of Panorama at the BBC. And whilst that's not a talk show, he came down, saw one of the shows, was impressed, spoke about me to the people at Carlton TV. They had just taken over the license from Thames Television, and that's how it all started.
Wow.
So in the end, I owed £18,000, but it's all worth it. The experience was really great. And one of the team at Bridge Park Complex was Kanya King, and as a result of being on my team, then she was able to get the her MOBO awards going.
Wow.
So lots of things sprung from the Crystal Rose show, good things.
Brilliant. So you helped people to cross over, right?
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
Brilliant. So you've explained obviously about your experience and how you got a commission. So what was it actually, would you even really have imagined that it would have got onto TV, Carlton TV? What was that experience like, actually seeing it and being there?
Well, it was definitely the aim to get a television show, which is why I invested the time, effort and energy and money into doing that. The reality, of course, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, before it aired, I went and met all of the American talk show hosts. So Oprah, Sally Jessy Raphael, Montel Williams, so all of them, Geraldo. And just that experience, I mean, if something had happened and I hadn't been able to get back to the UK, doing that would have been fantastic. But then to have hosted 103 shows as well, and we got 50% audience share. It was extremely successful. And so it's something I'm really proud of. I'm really glad that I put in the effort and was able to do that. And I think that not just for myself, but for my daughter and hopefully for other people who were watching that were up and coming, to show that a Black person can do that. Because of course it's very hard, and it's still hard. It was the Crystal Rose show, then came Vanessa and then Trisha, but we still don't have a Black female talk show host. There should be somebody on late night TV doing a type of Graham Norton show. I don't see why not, but I see a lot of us represented in television commercials now, which is great, but we need to be seen on every platform. Television is a microcosm of the world in which we live, and I'm not seeing it reflected properly yet, as it should be, but we're certainly getting there. It's just taking slower to get there than I would have expected, because the Crystal Rose show was nearly 30 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah. So tell me something. You've said that you met the American talk show hosts. How does somebody just get up and meet American talk show hosts, Crystal Rose?
But by the time I was doing that, the Crystal Rose show had been commissioned. So I went with the editor of the Crystal Rose show, and that was all arranged by Carlton. So I suspect I wouldn't have, if I was just, on my own, been able to go to Oprah and say, can you allow me to come in and sit through your rehearsals and watch the show? She was so gracious. She was supposed to be doing a satellite link, and she postponed that for 20 minutes, then sat me down and, had a chat. And I actually had a photograph taken with her. And on a trip to Los Angeles and then New York with my daughter, it was stolen. All of my luggage was stolen out of the boot of the car. And it included my picture of Oprah. And I'm gutted that I haven't got that anymore. But yeah, she was as gracious as you would expect her to be.
Oh, wow. I'm sure you'll be able to meet up with her sometime in the future and get another one, an updated version of a picture.
Well, it's been 30 years and it hasn't happened yet, so let's see.
We live in hope, right? We live in hope.
Absolutely. So, I did meet Maya Angelou, who I know is a great, had great influence over Oprah, and she was just wisdom. Fortunately, I met her. If there was another person that I'd really have loved to have met, is Nelson Mandela, but Maya Angelou was on my list of women that I really wanted to meet. I was really fortunate to meet her, and I can see how she was able to absorb how she's just spiritual and so full of wisdom. And it's such a shame everybody has to pass, but she's one person. If you could list, apart from your parents and family, someone that you'd like to live forever, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., but she would be on my list of someone that was such a benefit to the world.
Yeah.
I would really have loved Maya Angelou to have lived on and spread her wisdom.
Yeah, very wise lady, wasn't she? So I'd say, I don't want to say staff, but the people who worked in your team, do you still have contact with them? Do you still work with them?
No, I haven't had contact. The Crystal Rose show stopped airing in 1996.
Right.
So I went and lived in America for about 5 or 6 years. So no, I'm not in contact with hardly any. There's one person I speak with occasionally. Oh, look, there's a few people that I speak with occasionally. And it's interesting because I don't necessarily tie them to the Crystal Rose show because I knew them beforehand. But there are a few people that I still speak with, and I certainly still am in touch with the manager at the Bridge Park complex, because there was a terrible thing where the council actually took that complex away from the people that actually owned it. And there's a meeting this Sunday, I'm not sure when this is airing, but there's a meeting to help the HSBC, they're called, HSPCC, to try to get that Bridge Park complex back and have it owned by the locals. But so I'm in touch with a few.
Okay, great. I actually, I'm aware of that complex and the situation, but yeah, great. So more after the break about your life. So this is the end of part 1, but coming up in part 2, we'll be finding out about Crystal Rose's pioneering talk show. And welcome back to Tip Your Cap, where I am delighted to be joined today by the legendary Crystal Rose. Welcome back, Crystal Rose. So, Crystal, what was it like specifically being in the TV arena as a black woman, where there probably wasn't many as black people at the time?
Yeah, there weren't a lot. See, they might not see it as racism. I think as I approached nearly 60, I reflect, and I think it was racist. The things that I had to endure was down to race, opposed to me just being new in the business. You see, I have to weigh that up against the fact that they did take a chance on me. They did give me the opportunity to not just be the first black woman, as I said, but also to be the first woman. I was the first woman to have an eponymous talk show on British television, and that's saying something. So to a great extent, therefore, that can't be racist. But then when one was in the arena, I wasn't allowed to be a producer. I was told, no, I couldn't be a producer. It was something that I had. It was my baby. Actually, I was told, don't call it your baby anymore. And actually, the pilot shows that Carlton did, I was told that I had to refer to them as the pilots, not the pilots that I did at the Bridge Park complex. But without the pilots at the Bridge Park complex, there would have been no Crystal Rose show. We were doing a subject once, a topic where I thought it would be a good idea to have my daughter on the show. I think it was about nepotism. And I was told, no, you can't have your daughter on the show because that's nepotism. But when I pointed out that there are other presenters that had had their children on the show, I was told that I mustn't mention my name in the same breath as those presenters' names because we weren't on par. There were just so many things that happened and were said. The editor that I went to America with, he decided that it was a good idea to rifle through my desk, can you believe, and try to find some incriminating things. Oh, no. about me, found a letter that I had, because when I was doing the shows at the Bridge Park Complex, I was sponsored a lot. I would even get my tights sponsored, and he found a letter from the tights company and then sent that to Carlton to try to get me into trouble. And I just don't know whether things like that would have happened had I not been a rookie, but also I think that he had issues with race.
Yeah. Okay. So, Crystal Rose, do you think the industry has changed at all?
It's certainly changed, but it's not changing at a fast enough pace. We just need more people of colour in positions of power, because without that, there can't be the change, or, you know, the meagre amount that there is, they feel that they're doing their lot, and, you know, just far more needs to be done far quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you follow any women TV personalities, such as, you know, Zizi Mills or anybody like that?
No, I don't even know who that person is.
Okay. It's all right, Crystal. You can follow me, my darling.
Of course, Sharon, of course, absolutely. You're a great example.
Great, thank you. You've made my day. So do you think it's now easier for black women to have their own show, the TV show? And why do you think that is, if it is so?
Well, you've shown, of course, that you've got your own show here. It would be great to see more black women and men on terrestrial TV. That's where we need to be seen as well, you know. So I'd love just more progress in that respect. I mean, come on, the Crystal Rose Show was nearly 30 years ago. You know?
It's true, yeah.
How long do they need to take before they can see that it's unbalanced?
Yeah, there's room for improvement, isn't there?
Yeah, just a smidgen.
Yeah,
and I'm being facetious, of course. There is a lot of improvement that needs to be made, but there is some progress being made, and I'm glad for that progress. I would very much applaud if they could make more progress quicker, because that's what's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Crystal, do you feel that the internet helps with, you know, some people who want to start a talk show or want to start modelling even? You know, does it help people to just basically lift their product and get attention from the audience, from different, you know, the public? How easy do you think that is?
I think online platforms are extremely easy and important, and just shows a wealth of talent that's out there. You know, I go onto YouTube and I see people with their channels, and they're fantastic. Of course, everybody can't have their own terrestrial talk show, but yeah, I think that those platforms are really, really important.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So do you feel that we need, as a black community, we need more people to help us to cross over? Or do you think we're a bit selfish? Or, you know, what do you think?
I think that black people can be helpful to each other, but unfortunately some of them suffer from that crab in the bucket syndrome, where they see somebody on their ascendancy and their inclination is to pull them down instead of helping them up. And that's so sad. I mean, case in point is Samuel L. Jackson. What is all of this about black actors can't or shouldn't be taking American black roles? I mean, surely it should just go to the person who can do the role best, or who can do the role. And I think that divisiveness, instead of us helping each other, we're being divisive. So I'd like to see, I didn't like that, you know, this conversational argument actually about actors like Cynthia Erivo, who was cast to play Aretha Franklin, and people like Samuel L. Jackson are taking exception to it. I think that that's so sad, so very sad. They would never have cast Cynthia Erivo if she didn't have the talent to pull off the role. And she clearly has. She's a fantastic actress, a voice like an angel. And I think we've got so much to battle against as it is, you know? And I don't understand why we're not helping each other more. I would love to see that, because that's what we should be doing. People like Lenny Henry, who certainly have got their foot well and truly in the BBC, should be helping everybody that you possibly can of colour. Let's be specific, because if you are white, it's not as hard for you to get to where you want to go. I've talked about my start and been quite blasé and obviously encapsulated it, but it was 3 years in the making. I didn't just do what I did and then it came to be. In fact, I thought my name for a period was Dear Miss Rose. Unfortunately, you just got to keep going, and then anybody that is in there and can help you needs to help if they can. And I do appreciate that anyone that is in there is busy and has got their own struggles to deal with. But if you can help, then you certainly should.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. So you lived in America for 5 years.
I did.
Did you see, did you struggle over there? Is the struggle the same, or is it a different type of struggle?
I was to do a Kardashian type show over there with my daughter. And the same company that produces that, they were interested. Unfortunately, there was an agent over here who scuppered it, and I'm so annoyed at that. And I'll actually say what her name is. Her name's Holly Pye, who, when she was contacted by this company, she told them that the show wouldn't work, or she said something that was quite really bad, to the extent that they decided not to go ahead. And that was such a shame, because we had flights booked and everything to go and sign contracts. And I think that type of, that's so annoying. And that's about racism as far as I'm concerned. What does she mean that the show wouldn't work? In fact, that would be totally contrary to what my figures were for the Crystal Rose show. As I said, we, on average, used to get a 50% audience share. So it would be incorrect for her to have said that it wouldn't have worked. And apparently she said other things too. And I did contact her and say, why don't we go to lunch so that you can actually experience what I'm like? Because the worst thing that you would ever say about me is that I work too hard and for too long. But she didn't want to go. She actually said that she hadn't said anything, but the company wouldn't have said that she did if she hadn't. So that was very upsetting. But in America, of course, there's racism. Unfortunately, a black man generally, but women too, are being murdered by the police at a rate that is alarming and should just not be. And it's unfortunate that we might get to a stage where the only way to stop it is retaliation in the same respect. If a policeman knew that they were going to face the same demise as people that they were killing, maybe that would be what makes them stop. I noticed that LeBron James posted something like that. He had a picture of a policeman and said, "Are you next?" And there was an uproar. Of course, nobody should die. That's not what it's about. But that type of racism that is so, even after the George Floyd verdict, we're still having policemen shooting black people. There's been 6 since even the verdict. It's just ridiculous. When is that going to stop? And the sentence for that Chauvin needs to be an example of how seriously they take the fact that he murdered George Floyd. But in relation to America, yes, it's racist, but the most important colour to them isn't black, it is not white, it's green. If you can make money for them, they don't care what colour you are, which is why they've got so many, therefore, billionaires, because they will help you exploit your brand.
Thank you, Crystal. As if a talk show host and a career in fashion wasn't enough to keep a lady busy, after the break we'll be talking about Crystal Rose's other endeavours, including director, nightclub owner, Barack Obama, and much more. See you in a few moments. Hello and welcome back to Tip Your Cap, where I'm speaking to none other than Crystal Rose. Welcome back, Crystal. So Crystal, or the audience I should say, for those people who are from South London, or not necessarily from South London, but who, maybe 30 plus back in the day, I'm sure you all have heard of Diamonds nightclub. I used to go to Diamonds, used to dress up, go to Diamonds, do my thing. So what was the experience like for you as a club owner, Crystal?
Well, I managed the club. It wasn't something that I owned.
Okay.
What happened as to why I started that night or the weekend was at that time, it's so prevalent now, but you didn't get nights where it was just rare groove or just revival being played. And I used to go out, and I'm not into ragga. I'm not into, heavy hip hop. So I wanted to specifically hear the music that I liked, and couldn't find it. Even on New Year's Eve, I would go to places and be bored stiff, and so decided that I needed to find a venue where I'd be able to do that. And what was fantastic about that, I ran it for 7 years, and for 5.5 of the 7 years, if you didn't get it in before 12 midnight, you just didn't get in. It was that popular.
Yes.
And it was great to have DJs, every DJ from Jeff Schumann, The System were one of the early DJs from there. I mean, Mystery, everybody, I can't think of a DJ that's got a name that didn't play there at some stage. And it was just a really wonderful time. And as I say often, I pretended that I was working, but I was raving really every weekend. And we'd have comedy upstairs with Robbie G and Eddie Nesta. We'd have karaoke. It was great. Yeah. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that was the place to be.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because we started doing salsa on Thursdays.
Yes, that's right. I remember that. It was a great venue, and, it was, mature people, it was a good night, really good night.
Yeah.
And it was local to me, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
But, yes, so you're also a singer and songwriter. So tell us about that.
Well, I think that my daughter got all the talent when it comes to singing, really. I mean, my mum sang, and I sing a bit better than my mum, and then my daughter sings far, far better than any of us.
Wow, so it skipped a generation.
Yeah, but I love singing. I wish I could sing more like Whitney Houston, but, we all have our limitations. But I also write. I've always been a writer. I came third in the Channel 4 screenplay writing competition when I was 21.
Oh, wow.
Trix Worrell, who wrote Desmond's, came first, and he was the prize of going to the London Film School. But I didn't pursue my writing after that. I wrote a psychological thriller called The Fine Edge of Friendship.
Okay.
And coming third was great, 21. I think I won £500, and that was fantastic. And then I didn't write again until I had a book published called What a Bitch on Fourth Estate. And it's that. And then I decided that when I was 39, I hadn't found the ideal man. And I decided that what I'll do is form, it's called a FAM plan, find a man plan. And I decided that by the time I'm 40, I would have found this magnificent ideal man. And so I listed the qualities that he's supposed to have, and I was just going to go out and find this guy. And then working in a nightclub as I was doing at the time, I thought there would be no issues whatsoever. And many years later, I was still looking. And not that we don't have a lot of fabulous men out there. It's just that I just haven't been able to be fortunate enough to meet that person yet. I don't smoke, I don't drink, things that I would consider. I remember dating someone, and whilst I was in my sitting room watching the mayoral debate, he preferred to be in the bedroom watching EastEnders. And there's nothing wrong with watching EastEnders, but I would expect that the person I'm going to end up with will have a far stronger interest in politics than they will in soap operas.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you feel then that being single has helped you to focus more on your career?
I think when you're in a partnership and it's a positive, loving partnership, that can only be the best to me. That's the ideal. Because if it's a loving, positive partnership, that person's going to be spurring you on. They're going to pick you up when you're feeling down. They're going to, blow energy into you when you feel exhausted. They're going to hold your hand. And that's all really important elements that should come from a good relationship. Being single, it does mean that I can do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it. I've had the awful situation where you go out with somebody. I love dancing, and if you dance with someone, there's an issue. I don't like that part of being in a relationship, and that seems to be an element often in the ones that I've unfortunately found myself in. But to me, the best thing would be to meet someone, to meet your soulmate. That's wonderful. I look forward to that. I'm still looking for that, even at my very old age now. You know, that would be a wonderful thing. So, no, I wouldn't say that being single is the way to go, unless you want it to be that way. Flick, the character in my film, she wants to be single for a period, and she strives and she's able to achieve and to blossom being single. But love is, I mean, what can be better than love?
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's still time to find that special one. Always.
The people getting married at 80, 90.
Absolutely.
There's never a late time to find love.
Absolutely. So. There's hope for us yet. Absolutely. So going back to your singing and songwriting, Crystal, you also launched your own record label, didn't you?
I did, yes, Rose Records. And I sang with Peter Honeygirl. I sang with... who's the other one? Al Campbell.
Wow.
And so there was another that I did a duet with, and it was, I enjoyed it. And I wanted to have my own record label because then you have control, you know, with my film, it's my production company. And that's one thing I've learned from Oprah, you know. She was fortunate when she was doing her show that they said, come and share with this. Carlton would never, ever say, come and share with this and have part ownership. In fact, for the first series of the Crystal Rose Show, and I owed £18,000 because of the pilots I'd been doing, they said, you know, bear with us, let's see how well it does. And it did extremely well, 50% audience share, when all of the other channels share 50% is just phenomenal. And then the following series, they said that they would give me a rise, and they did. They offered me £15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that was your pay rise?
That was my pay. Well, of course, I didn't accept it, and they pushed it up a little bit more. But I mean, to have offered £15 as a pay rise when we are doing so well is just ridiculous.
So how do you stay motivated, or how did you stay motivated throughout that time, and, you know, facing all of those different challenges? How do you stay motivated through that?
My daughter and my parents, for me, I always wanted to excel and to be the best for them. For Louise, I had to be a good role model. And that's the bottom line. It was, you know, I don't hear, if somebody says to me no, that I don't hear no, I just hear not now. It just means they're not ready yet, but it doesn't mean that you stop. The only time that something is over is when you stop. I never stop if I want something. But fortunately, I worked in an accounts office for 3 weeks, the Currys head office for 3 weeks when I was 16, but I've never been an employee. I've always been, self-employed. And I've always, therefore, been my own boss to a certain extent. Yes, I worked for Carlton, but it was on a contract basis, you know. And so I've always been fortunate to be able to pick areas of industry that I enjoy. And whilst I have little sleep, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
Excellent, lovely. So, you know, I touched on in the intro about Barack Obama. So would you like to share a bit about that with us?
Sure. Well, when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, it was through the time when Barack Obama was running for president, and I volunteered and worked on his campaign. So that's 2008 Barack Obama presidential campaign. And I was a canvassing manager, and I basically organised, there were thousands of us, of course, and I organised, you know, in an area called Marietta, Georgia, people to go on to doorsteps and to talk about policy and to get people to sign up to register, because there are a lot of people black people in particular, who aren't registered to vote. And it's a waste. And I know that a lot of people say that voting is such a waste of time because how can one vote make a difference? Absolutely, it does. And if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for the millions of people who died in order for you to get that vote. Do not ever, ever waste your vote.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. I feel that there is a lot of people who just say, oh, it's not going to make a difference. I've even heard it, you know, but it does make, that one vote could well make that difference. You just never know.
Absolutely. And it's why we have perpetually Boris Johnson in. Am I allowed to be this political
Go ahead.
and so
Go
specific?
ahead.
Because
Take
I don't understand. How can he call us? He called black people pickaninnies
Yes.
with watermelon smiles.
Yes.
He called Muslim women, they look like bank robbers
Yes.
and pillar boxes.
Yeah.
And yet he's excelling.
I know.
In the polls.
How does that work?
He's had children out of wedlock. We know that he's been unfaithful. Now there's this scandal about, just how sleazy the Conservative Party are.
Yes.
I just don't understand how people aren't, galvanised by that and want to make sure that they don't get back into power. Because I think that, look at the numbers in terms of, the deaths in relation to COVID, because at the beginning, before the first lockdown, they didn't stop people coming in at the airport.
Absolutely.
They only did that, I think, in the second lockdown.
Second wave,
The numbers of deaths in this country are far higher than they needed to be. But yet he seems to get, all he needs to do is ruffle his hair, because he does it deliberately. He ruffles his hair to look like, Ken Dodd's twin, and people just accept him and think that he's not dangerous. The man's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Yeah. Very, very dangerous. I'm not sure how long...
There goes my OBE.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long he has left in power, but we'll see. So, Crystal, I just wanted to ask, what made you decide to go to Atlanta, America?
A lady called Jackie Brown came to Diamonds. She was from Atlanta. She was the husband. And we were downstairs and she was talking about Atlanta and painting it as this fantastic metropolis that I basically just had to get to. Aww. I was thinking about leaving London anyway because, I wasn't getting the roles in terms of getting back into TV that I wanted to. And therefore it made sense to go and have this new adventure. And so Diamonds was kind of diminishing in terms of the amount of people that were attending. And it made perfect sense to listen to this lady go and explore new territories. A lot of people kind of usually go to New York or Los Angeles. Yeah. And I just decided that, let me go and try Atlanta. And it was fantastic. I loved it. I was able to buy a house out there that just looked like a mansion. That over here would be 20 million.
Yeah.
And so it was just cheaper over there. It was cleaner. Yes, there's racism, but, it was just a fantastic experience. The only issue is the pace. I like to do things quite quickly. There, you go to a supermarket and they're packing your bag and they're having a conversation and you can go home and come back and they'll still be packing your bag. There's no rush there. It's like a soon come, but, it doesn't matter about time. And I love to work much quicker than that. I like the New York or London pace.
Right, okay, excellent, lovely. So we're going to have a quick break now, but join me in a few moments' time as we wrap up today's conversation on Tip Your Cap. Hello and welcome back to Tip Your Cap with me, Trey Ann Rowe, and my guest, the fantastic and funny Crystal Rose. Welcome back, Crystal. Lovely to have you back.
Am I funny? I didn't know I was funny. That's a new one.
So Crystal, I know that you've written movies. So can you tell us about that? And also, is that the focus for you now?
Oh, definitely. I'm producing a script that I've written called 40 Faking Fabulous. And it's essentially about two teenagers whose love is manipulated by a rogue manager because he doesn't want his protege to leave the industry. And that would mean that he stops earning commission. So he separates these teenagers, really awful person, but fortunately 22 years later they're able to reunite. But what a horrible person. Listen to me talking about the character, but he's just so awful.
Wow.
So hopefully going to production September of this year. It's just trying to get everything together right now.
Okay, that's brilliant. So when is that out or on the way?
No. We're putting together, we've got cast, crew. It's being directed by Leslie Small.
Okay.
Leslie Small is an American director. He directs all of Kevin Hart's comedy shows.
Oh, brilliant.
And they've just wrapped on Kevin's first talk show, where he interviews A-list guests as well. He also directed Monique in Hair Show. He's done a few features as well.
Brilliant.
And he's worked with every single Black American comedian there is. And yeah, so I'm really fortunate to have this fantastic guy on board directing my film. So we've got a really fantastic crew. And so we're just casting presently.
Brilliant. And so where is that happening? Is it here in England?
Yeah, it's going to shoot in London.
Brilliant. Lovely. So I also know that you're involved in stage plays as well.
Well, I trained as an actor, or I used to go to the Royal Court Youth Theatre, and so I did a bit of theatre there. Right. But I love watching theatre. I don't think that theatre's my first love myself. I love getting wrapped in film. But I like, see, for a lot of the industry, of course, the fact that you are not having a theatrical release, that your film isn't coming out in the cinema as much as it used to, isn't an issue for me, because I much prefer to watch a film in my own home. And I think that there should be pay-per-view now for films. You just pay and watch whatever film you want to watch in your home. I mean, that's far better than going into, a cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that you'll be, aside from the films, do you feel like you'll be in front of the camera doing anything else apart from directing? Is there any other avenues to do with that kind of film world that you think you'll be involved in?
Yeah, presently we're trying to negotiate a documentary which will follow my progress of getting the film made. I much prefer being a producer than I do a presenter. So I think you're doing a fantastic job, I must say, by the way.
Oh,
you really do a great job. You look fantastic and you are extremely professional. Well done.
Bless you, thank you.
But I would much prefer to be producing you than I would be to sit in front of a camera. But in saying that, I would love to see someone like me doing a political show. Why is it that we just have, generally they're certainly not of my complexion, and I would like to see somebody talking politics and talking from a Black perspective.
Absolutely. So Crystal, is there anything else left, for you to, on your list of things to do, for you to do? I'm sure there is.
Just to get the next, I take things one thing at a time, because otherwise you never get anything done. But just to get this film into production would be fantastic. For it to premiere, as we're aiming for, next year at Cannes, and then for it to be a success. I've already written the follow-up script, which is called Daughter Dearest, and get that into production and whatever would be great. But that will be far easier once this is done.
Yes. So
I'm thanking my financier. One of them is Peacock Film Finance. So thanks so much for coming on board. And my other financiers as well. Shirley Fanti, Sarah Banja. Let's get this film in the can, and hopefully it'll be a success. It's animation. It's a fantasy musical.
Yeah, lovely.
Romantic drama.
Brilliant. Okay, so Crystal, you talk about writing and your films and things like that. How do you find the best time to write? How do you flow? Do you flow at home? Do you need to go away? Some writers, they need to be in a total different space. How do you flow?
I would love to be able to go and sit on some sun-drenched beach in Africa or somewhere. But I love writing, and so when I start as well, I might say I started at 10 in the morning or even 8 in the morning, and then I'll look up and it might be 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm thinking, well, where did that time go? So I'm just at home and on my laptop, and things just flow, I can't explain it. Yeah. It's whether it's good or not in the end. I can write to my heart's content, but if nobody appreciates it, then it's a bit of a waste of effort. But I've just really, from the age of, my mum told me one of my poems when I was 5 was in the local paper. I've just always written, from poetry to scripts now. A novel I've had published, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your novel as well that you've had published. I did have a look at that. So tell us about that. What's the name of that again?
Oh, that was called What a Bitch, and it was published on Fourth Estate. I'm not quite sure that it should be held up as a literary example. Yeah.
But you did you have merchandise as well? What was there something else? Yeah, merchandise.
Well, I used to have a shop in Baker Street,
Wow.
Crystals,
Wow.
where I sold my own clothes and shoes. It was all evening wear on my own label.
Brilliant.
And I had a What a Bitch line. It's like we're going to have a 40 Faking Fabulous lines. Everything that you see in the film, you'll be able to go onto the 40 Faking Fabulous website and buy. So I've always been that way inclined to try to get IP for everything that I do.
Yeah.
Intellectual property for everything I do.
Yes, brilliant. Wow. So, Crystal, is there any creatives that you would love to work with?
Oh gosh, the list would be just so very long. I mean, Tyler Perry's, what an example he is. Just a fantastic example, and his story.
Amazing. Yes.
Not that long ago, living in his car and funding his own stage shows, and then look at him now, his own studio. His studio is bigger than the studios in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The man is phenomenal. He's an icon and somebody to look up to and aspire to be a fraction like would be an achievement, much less to have achieved all that he has.
Yeah.
So there was just so many,
Yeah, absolutely.
Ava DuVernay is another one.
Yeah.
Shonda Rhimes,
So many. Yeah. I love the way Tyler, really reaches out and helps people as well. I just love that,
The dream to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Crystal, if you could sum up one word that you would like your legacy to be, so we're condensing this into one word, what would it be?
A trier. I was asked once what should be on my tombstone or my grave, and I said she came, she tried, she made a difference. So I'd love to be able to make a difference, but I will certainly keep trying. Keep trying. It does matter about racism, but what can you do? You've just got to me, I write down the pros and cons. And even if the cons far outweigh the pros, as long as you're aware of what those cons are, you can get over, under, around them.
Yes.
But know what they are. So try to do as much research as you possibly can on whatever subject or wherever you're trying to get into. And then you've got the tools that you need to succeed, because the only limitation is you.
Yeah, I love that, Crystal. You go over, you can go around, you can go under. I'm going to remember that. That's brilliant. And on that note, I would like to tip my cap to you, Crystal Rose.
And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's all we've got time for on this edition of Tip Your Cap. A huge thanks to my guest today, Crystal Rose, and to you all at home for watching. I am Trey-Ann Rowe, and I look forward to seeing you again right here on Tip Your Cap. Goodbye.